Hello, I'm Linda Gunn, and I would like to tell you about my book, Fairy Tales Can Come True, The Beginning. I never thought I would have the title of author. My whole life has been spent as that of an artist. I taught art classes, I've given demonstrations, I've given workshops, and I'm a plein air painter. One of my students' husbands asked me to illustrate his book that he had written for children of hospice patients, and another book to be written and given to be illustrated and given to children's charities. Illustrating those two books made me realize that I had my own story to illustrate and to tell. I chose to write about my life as the neglected middle sister, and how my seagull friend was actually Peter Pan in a bird's body. I was far from acting like a Disney princess. I wrote about my true life experiences. I wrote about frustrations and love of family. As a child, I lived and breathed illustrated fairy tale books. I found two of my favorite fairy tale books on the way to school, on top of a trash can in the alley. From them, I learned that every heroine in fairy tales had a sad existence that was righted through faith, trust, and unselfishness. In my story, Nina, who is me, finds a fairy tale book about fairies on top of the trash can in her back alley. It's a book that's all about fairies that only special people with imagination can read. My story takes place in my timeland and tells of the places and events that happened to me as a child in Southern California, at the beach, at home, and at school. The story will bring back childhood memories of events and places for adults and new adventures for children as it recaps the favorite bits and pieces of the Disney classics. I've imagined that my story would become a sequel to Disney's Peter Pan. George Drake was my grandfather. He worked for Walt Disney before we were born. We were very proud of the fact that Grandpa was Dopey and Ichabod Crane. My grandfather, George Drake, was hired by Walt Disney in 1929 to hire and train new artists for the fledgling studio. Grandpa George created Figaro the cat for the movie Pinocchio, and he did the sketches for Figaro at the kitchen table way back when. The subject of my story is Peter Pan. I had seen the Peter Pan statue in Kensington Gardens, and I was enthralled with the details of the statue and the adoration of the fairy figures making their way up to Peter Pan. Seeing the statue brought back memories of my childhood dream to escape reality and fly away to Neverland as Peter Pan's new Wendy. This is Seagully, my seagull friend that sat or stood on the buoy every day while Nina was on the rope, sitting on the rope attached to the buoy, the slimy rope, instead of taking a swim lesson. Anyway, Nina would talk to Seagully and sing to him, and they would imagine that actually Seagully was Peter Pan in a bird body, and he would fly her to Neverland with him. So in the story, Seagully follows her to the principal's office when she's late for school, and because she found the magic book in the alley. And here he is looking in the window at Nina while she's in the principal's office. It was not hard to create a storyline around the subject of Peter Pan, and the settings are places I frequented as a child. I was well versed in storytelling, especially when it came to the imagined. The mysterious store at Cabrillo Beach became the perfect portal to Neverland. Family relationships, And my experiences in elementary school with the mean principal gave me the perfect villain. And of course, one can't get to Neverland without Peter Pan. The seagull was once a young gull that my husband and I used to feed at Alameda's Bay, but I used my seagull character as my Peter Pan figure. This is when Nina was first learning to fly. She didn't have enough fairy dust, and in fact the dust only went on her bottom, so she raised up like this. So this is Nina on the pirate ship. She had been put in a gunny sack because she had red fairy dust all over her. And on the ship is this huge vulture who pecks at her. And the vulture has the same toenail polish as the evil principal in book 1. This is Moe's experience seeing her first fairy. This is Nina's view from ground level. She's buried up to her neck, waiting for the tide to come in. And while she's waiting, the seaweed winds its way toward her to drag her back into the sea so the mermaids can kill her. Mermaids are very evil. So over here, this is a good part of Neverland where Nina's flying with Boy. This is actually Bird Rock from Catalina Island. Of course, there has to be treasure, pirate treasure, and this is the cave. The floor is littered with bodies of mammals, unidentifiable mammals. Flies are everywhere. Nina finds a pretty red rock and puts it in her pocket, only to find out that it's the red fairy disguised. Mm-hmm. Abalone shell. This is what the mermaids' bodies look like, abalone shells. Nina's left on the Cabrillo break wall to rest on her first flight with Peter Pan, and while he goes away, she's attacked by the sea dragon. This is an illustration of Marie's trip to Neverland. She played the cello, so we have her cello, we have the vulture, we have her shoe, and we have the principal's shoe, Miss Perrette's open-toed shoe, in a whirlwind, a red whirlwind. This is the blue fairy. This is Nina and Peter with a ball of fairies coming up toward them as they're flying into Neverland in the dark. These are the sisters. And this is the painting of the pirate ship and the bad pirates. I painted that about 8 years before I wrote the story. It's an illustration for a book called Blood Tide. And I was lucky that the author loaned it to me. So these paintings were painted after I had written the books. And you've seen them. And this one is the most recent painting. It's done with collage papers. I painted the painting and I cut out images. These are just paper images that are glued on. Whoa. My paintings that I had glued onto. And then I put papers that have patterns in them that were transparent, and then painted over the whole thing with opaque paint so that everything was blended. Pretty tricky, huh?
That's crazy. Babe, you see that? It's layers.
It's a collage.
Oh, wow.
And you said it was different types of papers that were
Yeah, you
collaged
can
on
see
there?
they have they're printed rice papers.
Wow.
With some of them have glitter in them, and some are just textured. But it's very transparent, and it's kind of fun. This is a recent painting I did, a seagull flying from Alamedas Bay to San Pedro to where Cabrillo Beach is, which is right here. Nina and Peter flying, which actually they would be flying at night if they were in the story. This is an acrylic painting of the pastel painting that's in the book. I did it for a competition. I liked the subject, but I added the lock, which once was a big gate with a lock. It's for fun. This is the interior of the magic room. And that was fun. This is Fairy Tales Can Come True, a trilogy, and it's the continued story of the beginning, and it tells how Nina does fly to Neverland with Peter Pan, only to discover that her sisters are already there. One is in the role of a fairy princess. Mo is as the fairy princess, and Marie is actually the captain of the pirate ship. And the pirates are funny men that are very entertaining, and they like to sing the songs that Marie has taught them, that she had learned from Campfire Camp. So anyway, Nina is stuck in the captain's cabin because she had a little bout with the red fairy, who spread red fairy dust over her. Red fairy dust brings sorrow and pity and selfishness. I chose the title Fairy Tales Can Come True because of a song that I heard on the radio as a child, which everybody's very familiar now. Fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart. And as a child, I thought, well, my heart is young, and I have a big imagination, and I know that my fairy tales will come true. So that's why I titled it Fairy Tales Can Come True. I would call it The Pretend, because that's what we did as children. We pretended. We imagined and we pretended. And I think that would be an excellent explanation of my book.
I told you about that they're going to make a movie out of it. How would you react?
I would cry. It's just unbelievable. A live stream come true. Okay? Wells Hamilton, I can't thank you enough for all that you have done for me and for my books. You know, I've been with 3 other publishers, and nobody can compare to the service and the kindness that you have shown. Thank you so much.